All right, so here we are with attempt 2. Just got the drive shaft back. If you didn't see my last video, it was 2 inches too long, so they shortened it up for me. Truck's jacked up in the back. I'm gonna climb underneath it and throw the shaft in. Hopefully we can make it run. All right, so drive shaft fits. I was kind of digging through the back here and kind of turned into a storage bin for me over the last couple of years, sitting outside with a bunch of other parts in the back. Today's goal is to move this onto one of the hoists. I can start going through all the bolts, making sure everything's tightened up. I put a couple bolts in the cab just to make sure it's not gonna slide around if I do go to move it. Yeah, I guess let's see if it fires up again. I tossed the battery in, I don't know how charged it is. This will be the second time starting it. I'm just gonna fire it up for a second. And again, the battery is dead. So we're gonna have to charge that battery first. Or just jump start it, one of the two. But yeah, hopefully we get pretty far on this project today. All right, so here's the plan. I'm gonna fire this thing up, pull it outside for the first time, and move it to a hoist. We're gonna jump start it. I know the brakes kind of suck because I have new lines on it, but I never actually bled them. So that's one of the things I need to put it on the hoist and do. So hopefully this goes well. But let's see if she'll fire up and move for us. I did fill the brake reservoir. It was pretty low, so I can feel some pedal. I think we'll be all right. Let's fire it up here and I'll get the door and, well, let's see if it starts. Are you serious? That sucks. I think I need a starter. Son of... Well, it would appear I can't win with this vehicle. Let me address that. So I did a little investigating, and I think the connection on the starter, I don't even know, you probably can't see it from here. I can't get it to zoom in. Oh, down in that hole down there. I tried jumping it with a screwdriver, and if I make contact with the positive battery cable terminal and not the lug that it's bolted to, I can get the starter to click. But I don't think I have voltage going into the post on the starter from the positive battery cable, so I think there's a dirty connection there. Yay. So let me see what I can do to fix that. All right, so hopefully this works. I've got 3/8 extensions ran all the way down to the bolt on the starter. Obviously I disconnected the negative battery cable first, so we're not doing any welding here. Hopefully I can loosen it up, tighten it up, reconnect the battery, and it'll start. If that works, then obviously when I get it on the hoist, I'm gonna pull that off of there and clean it, but hopefully this is my actual problem, so time will tell. Let's try it out. I guess the question is, did it work? I took it loose and tightened it 2 or 3 times just to kind of hopefully make a good connection if that was my problem. Jumper pack's hooked on, negative battery cable's connected. Let's see what it does. Oh, and this is kind of interesting too. So my oil pressure gauge is connected, but Ford must use like a closed sensor and GM must use an open, or vice versa, because it shows I have oil pressure when it's not running, but once it starts, it actually drops off to nothing. So let's turn the key and see if it works. Fingers crossed. Yes. Yeah, see the oil gauge dropped. Awesome. So yeah, unfortunately I had to figure that out with the Ford gauge because I don't want the check gauges and no oil pressure. But tack won't work because it's a V6 tack, so even if I hook it up, it's going to be way revved. But awesome. All right, I'm going to see if I can get it to move. Let me open the garage door. All right, this place is such a mess. Awesome. Do we have charging voltage? Oh yeah, the alternator's even working. That's good. Sounded to be a tick coming out of the exhaust. I hope that's out of the exhaust. I'll have to find that too. I'm gonna put you down until I get it moved. All right, putting it in gear for the first time. Yeah, I don't have shift or brake pedal. Oh, it moves. It's moving. We're gonna put it back in neutral though, because I don't have brakes. And do they work in neutral? Oh yeah, they kind of work. There's just no pedal there. All right, I got shut garage door. All right, so I don't have power steering, so I'm probably not going to be able to drive you in, but I do have a check engine light that just came on. So, and a brake light because I don't have any brakes. I'm going to get this belt back inside on the other hoist so that way I can fix the no brakes and figure out what the check engine light is. So let's get her going. All right, so yeah, it sounds like I got a miss out of the exhaust, like a popping. I do have a check engine light, so not great signs. It's got pretty good throttle response, and it looks like we have connection there. Let's go in here and see what our code is. Chevy, it's a 93. Pretty sure is what it was. Caprice, the 5.7. Wait, that's a TBI. That can't be right. Hang on. We gotta start over here. That can't be right. Chevy 94 Caprice. There we go. 5.7 sequential. So it had to be out of a 94, not a 93. I probably knew that and forgot. I'm sure that's what happened. All right, engine. GM1, gotcha. Let's see what the codes are. We gotta turn the key on. Power the ECM up. And what do we have for a code? All right. Oil life light fault. Okay, that's because I didn't hook up an oil life light yet. Quad driver module. I think, don't know what that's about. Secondary air injection, that's always going to be there, and the cooling fan fault, but I got to wire in a cooling fan yet. So 97, not sure. I was hoping to see a misfire. Functional tests, nope. Display data and road tests, is there any misfire data? Pretty sure there's not. Coolant sensor's working. Speed. No, so we have no misfire data on this. All right, the fun of using dinosaur computer systems that don't track all your information for you. Well, none of those faults are surprising. The 4,000 mile thing, I don't know what that's all about. But yeah, I still do not have any cooling fans in here at all. So we got to wire those up. And yeah, let's get this thing to have some brakes and see if we can figure out why it's running rough. All right, so here's a quick shot of the underside. She fits in there pretty tight. I had to wrap this entire exhaust pipe to keep the heat down because she's like super tight. As you can see, the engine's a little bit offset to the right. I had to do that to make clearance for the steering shaft. Got her in here though. She looks pretty good. We have Y pipe merged into a 3-inch, so I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna put in here for a muffler. You can tell the bottom of the truck's John Deere green because I had some leftover paint, so when I had the cab off, I painted the entire bottom with John Deere green. I didn't do the same with the box or the frame back here yet, but yeah. It's got all brand new brake lines. These were actually on here already, so I left them even though they used pieces, which I hate, but they're still new, so there's no reason to change them. But we will get the brakes bled out so that way we have a pedal. I did the axle flip where before the shackle was up here. So to lower the rear, I actually flipped the rear shackles upside down, which apparently I never finished either because the bolts aren't tight, which they should be tightened on the drive up hoist so that it's at ride height before they get completely tightened. Just kind of, again, going through and seeing all the stuff I still have yet to do here. Boy, it's getting rusty. That's so sad. This box was in pretty good shape when I started this project a couple years ago. She rusted out pretty quick. So the cab's in awesome shape. There's like virtually no rust in it, hardly at all. Like cab corners and everything are great, but the box side's just kind of gone. Over the last couple years, the frame was really rusty. I rust-oleummed it. It's pretty bad. It's not gonna last a super long time, but shouldn't have to. This should be a fun toy to beat on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start tightening up some bolts and get some brakes bled and attach the bumper so it's not falling off. Figure out what we're gonna do for exhaust. So let's see what we can come up with. So I think for a muffler for the moment, what I'm gonna do is I found these thrushes that I took off my old Chevy truck. They got these turn downs on them. I think I'm just gonna cut whatever length I need for the pipe here. So that way the muffler's somewhere in here. I gotta get a measuring tape and see with the offset and make sure it's gonna fit, but I might even come all the way back here. We'll figure it out. All right, so I think this is what I'm gonna do for the exhaust. I've got the 2-into-1 merge here. I'm gonna pull this here. I may take a couple relief cuts just to kind of squeeze and put a little bit of a bend on this to turn it up a little higher. I mounted the muffler with the outlet on the top, so I'll probably drill a weep hole to let the water drain out of the muffler so it doesn't rot it all out. I don't know if I'll go off the back or off the front, but I'll probably put a weep hole in there. Cut this turn down off once I like the sound, once I know if I like it. And then I'll probably come up over the rear end once I get it on the 4-post and know exactly how high it goes. And I might come down here with some kind of a curved pipe and then maybe branch it back off into duals, or just run one straight 3-inch pipe right out the back. I guess I want to hear how it sounds with this muffler just mounted on there. Obviously the turn down is going to change the sound, but I'd like to hear what it sounds like before I'm going to hear what it sounds like before I make any decisions to actually weld anything together to make sure this is a muffler I want. If it's way too loud, I may end up just opting for a inexpensive 3-inch larger muffler and actually try and keep it somewhat of a sleeper. So yeah, that's where we're at for the exhaust. I'm gonna quick pull that starter wire off and see if I can't clean that up before I let it down and start it up. So let's do that first. All right, so I pulled the positive battery cable off the starter, and it's not super clean. There's a little bit of rust in there. I'm hoping that was my problem with the starter because 1, I don't want to pay for a new starter, and 2, I don't want to have to take the starter out because it's not going to be a fun thing to get out later in life. But yeah, there's definitely some rust on this part down in here. I don't even know if I got the camera pointing to it. There it is. Yeah, where my finger is down here. Get it focused. So I'm gonna see if I can clean this up on the surface down here. I'm gonna sand both sides of this and probably throw, oh, that side's pretty shiny yet. Probably throw a different lock washer on there. Maybe sandblast. Actually, I'll probably sandblast both of these so they're clean metal. That'd probably be the best method. But I'll get that cleaned up and then hopefully it starts again. So that's what it sounds with the muffler on it. I can still hear that popping coming through the exhaust, so I definitely think I got a miss or an exhaust valve or something sticking open. Whew, she stinks. Like, it sounds pretty good though. It's got a real low tone. Alright, so I threw the muffler in this position. I did cut this pipe and bend it a little bit to get a little bit of a curve in it, so it kind of pointed the muffler up. Looks like I'll probably have to come up a little bit higher to the box side to get over the rear end once we set it on the ground. But then I don't know if it's just going to be a straight shot 3-inch out the back or not. Yet to be determined. Gravity bled the front brakes. I'm going to quick try and see if I can get the wheel cylinders open in the rear. If I can do that and I get a pedal, I'm going to move it to the other hoist so I can start getting all these suspension bolts tightened up that need to be at ride height. Yeah, that's where we're at. So you can see the starter bolt. I got kind of close to it there. I cleaned it all up and sandblasted the nut, and hopefully that cures my starter problem. So, all right. Well, we should have some kind of brakes. I've gravity bled it. Got the tires back on. I'm going to move it from this hoist to the 4-post so that way I can get the ride height set, and that way I can tighten up those shackles and stuff in the rear, and we can keep going and putting it together. Probably going to make some kind of cold air intake system that comes off the mass airflow, shoots straight down behind the radiator, and comes out around the bottom of it in front here. Kind of debating on that because I'm not sure if it's worth taking the chance of getting water in it, or if it'd be better just to, you know, just run it straight down. Who cares about the heat? I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. It's not ultra high performance car. Like I said, it's basically a stock LT1, but should be pretty fun with such a light little truck and skinny tires. So, all right. So brakes halfway work. Still don't have power steering, so it's not real fun to drive yet. Pulled it around. Left a little black mark there. Definitely gonna need posi if we're gonna make this thing fun though. Definitely can feel a misfire. So what I've gone ahead and done is, because I don't have misfire counters in this old 94 computer, I hooked up the ignition scope, and I'm going to determine which cylinder is actually misfiring on me, and try and figure out why. So let's see if I can get this to work here. I gotta hook up my ground yet. I need 2 hands till I get it running here. I'll turn it back on. All right, set my head. Fire it up quick. Something going wrong with cylinder 8. with cylinder 8. Let me get a look at that and see what's going on here. Okay, as you can see what I was looking at here, the firing order, oops. Don't know what I just touched. Hang on a second, stop. Okay, so you can see how this slope, let me grab my pointer. What happened to my, okay. So when I snap the throttle, this is what happened here to cylinder 8. You can see the firing order down here is 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2, which I'm gonna quick double check and verify that that's actually the right firing order for this engine, because it is an LT1 and I'm not 100% familiar. So let me quick do this. 1843, yeah, it is. I was looking at something else before. All right, so anyway, as you can see here, I'm getting spark to all my cylinders, but this firing line is sky high. So there's definitely something going on with cylinder 8. Let's look into it and see what we can find out. All right, so I pulled the spark plug out of cylinder 8. Kind of a little bit of darkness there, but it's not super wet. Doesn't give me any indication of what the problem is yet. Yeah, it doesn't smell super wet. I'm almost wondering, because the fuel rail feeds in and comes all the way around to the end. And so it's possible that the number 8 injector might be plugged with some debris of some kind. Because if any of them were going to plug, it would be the end one where you're coming back up against the regulator. Again, I still don't know what the actual problem is yet, but I'm going to run a couple more tests and see what I can find out. All right, here's what I've decided to do is throw the compression gauge in cylinder 8, and I clamp the spark plug in the hole, or onto the control arm, plugged into the wire. So I'm going to check and see if I got compression on the cylinder and spark at the same time. Hopefully this works. Cranks over. Took it up to 100, and I have spark. Kind of smells like fuel. Oh, look at that though. Well, I guess that's also because it's not in, but I am seeing it spark on this boot. I wonder if that was shorting out the plug. But it sounds like it's running almost the exact same with this disconnected. So, running compression's pretty low there, obviously, but if I throttle snap it, it jumps up pretty quick. So, I don't think it's valve related. I think it's fuel. Or that little metal guard, which I don't know if you can see it. This plug wire has a metal guard on it, and I can see it sparking between the two right there. So I don't know if maybe this is potentially shorting out the plug wire. But I definitely see spark at the plug, and I see that I do have some compression. I mean, that was a quick throttle snap and it ran up almost to 100. I'm sure if I did a correct compression test, it would be higher. I don't know. I think I'm gonna throw the spark plug back in it. Spark plug in and take that metal boot or metal guard off the boot. See what happens here. All right, so I disconnected the fuel injector and I think it runs better. I feel like there's something wrong with that number 8 fuel injector at the moment. Yeah, actually, is this paused? Yeah, you can still see it goes way crazy right there. Still thinking about this one here. I did a little reading to verify, but this is pretty much the same pattern as what my scope was showing when I did the throttle snap. And lean cylinders will create excessive turbulence, and that's what happened with the coil oscillation. Basically, if there's no fuel in the cylinder, the burn line, instead of going slowly down as the energy is used, there's no use of the energy for the spark, and so it creates this high turbulence situation. Leans me more towards the injector than even before, so I'm pretty sure I have a fuel injector problem, and this is what I was seeing on the scope. So just had to think about it for a minute. It's been a while since I've used the scope, so let's figure out why it's doing that. Okay, for the first test I'm going to do is I'm going to quick do an ohms test of the 2 injectors side by side and make sure there's no difference in them. So I'll need 2 hands for that, but I just want to tell you what it's doing. All right, so I've checked them both, and they both come out to 12.26. So I'll switch this one here, if I can get it in there. Let it sit for a second. Come on. Making contact. $12.21, $12.26 right there. 12.34. So this one's moving a little bit, but that could be just my hand shaking a tad. So the injectors all mount the same. I'm gonna guess that one's plugged. So before I go there, I am gonna pull a different spark plug out and just look at it and make sure that the spark plug that is in cylinder 8 does look really lean, which I thought it did. I'm just gonna verify it with the plug next to it, and then I'm probably gonna lift the rail out, switch 2 injectors around and see if it makes a difference. So this is the spark plug from the cylinder right next to it. As you can see, it's pretty dark and discolored, which the other one I took out looked like it was still brand new and didn't have any fire on it at all. So pretty sure the injector is gonna be my problem. I'm gonna throw this back in, and then we're gonna swap those injectors around, so we're losing the focus. But yeah, you can definitely see this one's been burning and it's dark and discolored, which probably from all the short little starts and bad gas and everything else, but you would hope that that would still be cleaner. We'll have to see what it looks like once we've had it running for a while. So I threw the injector, or the spark plug back in. Definitely has a different color to it, so I'm more than positive my problem is fuel related. I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can't just pop one side of this rail and get the injector pulled out of here and see if I can see dirt plugging it, and then maybe just swap it with a different one and see what we come up with. So I'm pretty sure the inside of the injector was all gummed up. Like I said, it had the exact same resistance, but when I hooked it up to the booster pack, it barely made any kind of faint clicking at all. I took an air hose and pushed air backwards through the injector to lift the pintle, and it pushed some dirt out of the end. So pretty sure I just fixed the injector. Actually, I hope I fixed the injector. I should have showed you what it sounded like before. Either way, if I touch it to the ground, it's clicking and it's making the noise it's supposed to make. Let's put it back in the car and see if it worked. Injector's hooked back up. Double check that I actually plugged it in. Click, click, yep. All right, fingers crossed this thing sounds good. That's what 8 cylinders should sound like. All right, well, that's awesome. Hopefully that's the only problem I have with it, but I definitely think that solved my misfire. I think I'm gonna hook the ignition scope back up just to show you what it looks like now that that cylinder's actually firing. So let me do that real quick. So as you can see, the scope's running here. I'm gonna do the same throttle snap, keep an eye on 8. Like all the other ones. We have an 8 cylinder instead of 7 now. I bet she really will spin the tires. So yeah, I found that technique to work a couple times in my life. Things that sit for a really long time, the fuel gets kind of gummed up inside the injector, and it'll actually get to the point where electrically the injector's trying to work, but mechanically the pintle inside won't lift. So if you put air pressure backwards through it, just a touch, I mean, you can't go full force. I wish I would have recorded the whole process, but small amount of air pressure just so you see a little bit of bubbling come out of it, and then take and scratch it back on 12 volts again, and if it starts clicking real good, chances are you fixed your problem. So that injector should live another day. Still might be running a little lean on a couple cylinders, but this is just on cold startup. It's still got to run for a while, and like I said, it's been sitting for a long time, so we'll have to see how good she makes it. All right, so I'm just finally getting the exhaust to the bumper here. I found this chunk of stainless steel extension that I had. I think I gotta bump it a little bit to make it fit over the pipe, but it's gonna kind of go like that. It sticks out a little far, so I may cut it at an angle, just depending on how it sounds straight. But yeah, so we took 3-inch, all used. Everything from here forward was new pipes that I bought a long time ago, and that was already done. Everything from here back is used stuff that I kind of made work. This is an old thrush muffler that came off of my 79 Chevy truck that I took the engine out to put in my school bus. And all this other piping was also used. So reused. We're gonna make it work though. All right, so I bumped the pipe a little bit, so I got the chrome tip on there. It does stick out a little long, so I'm thinking a 45-degree angle, or even just straight cut it, one of the two. But I just kind of slipped it over the end of the tailpipe. I'm gonna go ahead and get this hanger mounted, and then before I weld the system together completely, I'm gonna start it up so I can hear what it sounds like. Should sound really good. Okay, so what does it sound like? Still don't have the box bolt in. First start. I definitely need a better battery. That sounds crazy. Let me give it some taps here. Ooh, she's a little stinky. I don't know if I'm gonna legit pass as a street legal muffler on there. That's pretty loud. Give it one more wrap. Oh, I do like it though. I must say that sounds pretty good. and the whole shop's filled with smoke. Awesome. So I just took a little bit of time to figure out all the wires and get everything cleaned up. We have the harnesses all put together now. Vacuum lines are connected, so I should have my defroster and everything working correctly. Due to the fact that the radiator is currently sticking up above the radiator support, I'm gonna have to spend some more money. We're gonna take this factory radiator, throw it away, and put a S10 V8 conversion radiator. It's 3 rolls, and it will actually fit inside. I don't know if I can even show you right now. It's blurry. It'll fit much better. It'll give me a lot more room to be able to mount cooling fans in here. So I think that's my only option. Otherwise, everything's just crammed in here so tight. There's just no room to put a fan. So cruise control, I think, will work as far as the way it's wired to the vehicle. I don't know how I'm gonna get hooked up to the throttle body yet. That shouldn't be too terrible a thing. When I do get a radiator, the cap's gonna end up being on the radiator instead of on this overflow bottle. So I'll probably change out this can or change out this expansion tank and put a regular overflow bottle in, and then figure out some way to mount the power steering. Other than that, under the hood seems to be pretty assembled. I'm sure I'm missing a couple things here and there just because it's been apart for so long. But yeah, we're gonna find a little better house for the computer here because it's kind of flopping around. But for right now, until I figure out the air cleaner situation, the mass airflow sensor is kind of tight on the harness. So it limits where I can put this unless I make these wires longer. But it's gonna be a fun little truck.